Good morning, everyone. What a whip around yesterday. I totally relate that to the options expiration, not so much the Fed thing, because we all knew what they were going to do. Mm. So and they did what we knew. There was no surprise. I think all this gyrations is about the options expiration. I haven't looked at SPX yet, but as long as I guess, where did it? Let me look at it anyway. We'll get to this other stuff. I haven't even looked at the options yet. Yeah. So it stayed above 6,500, pulled back to normal place. Look where it settled in, right back to 6,600. And yeah, we're not going to really get a clear insight. Oh, we have a clear insight right now. Let me back up. The trend is up, black and white. Trend is up. So ignoring news and options expirations and so on and so forth. But it was short term extended. So expecting buyers on the dip certainly is the norm. Anyway, let's go back and check things out, look around. So, well, yeah, getting on board, it's from an intraday point of view, trading that insanity is not for me. Right? It's just too wild. Um, you could without giving it a huge which means what's the reward to risk? You're dealing with a news event plus options expiration and things flying around like that. It's just better to sit on the sidelines and do nothing. I mean, some in the room did some option stuff, expirations of expiring yesterday, getting out of them. So, you know, you still got to be nimble. Getting fills isn't always going to be well, I don't know about the best thing, but you could be waiting a little while as they fill you. And then when you're getting out, so it's not my cup of tea. We're dealing with stuff like that. Anyway, anyway, so what do we have? What we have is what we refer to as a correction bar right there. Within an uptrend, that's a bar. It's a big one. Uh, it's a bar that takes out the prior bar or two or sometimes three bars lows, like this one did, and it comes roaring all the way back. So if we ignore the news, what's going on, we'd say, okay, while it's a wide range correction bar, it's a correction bar, and that suggests higher. Now, I'm interested to see, as always, where the day ends because, so far, over the last week or so, things have just been whipping back and forth sideways. You take just looking at this, if we were to put it on a line close, prices moved up a little bit and they've just been flatlining. So we'll see if today can hold on to its gains. You see how it's, dropping here, coming down to this support area. And we'll see if this holds. It's, just coming back down to where it was, just, you know, getting sold into on the move up. And if it was really strong, meaning there was that strong a demand, it wouldn't be coming down like this. But I just think it's more of, the options expiration and things just getting pulled back and forth, back and forth. Right. So, Zavos, I'm saying right, it's become harder to earn big. Well, true, because you look at this kind of a chart, it's frustrating. And look, this is the business that we're in. It's like there can be times where, it's leaner, let's just say, and there's times where you can start adding to positions, especially intraday. So from a swing trading perspective, just using this chart, if you were to say, you know, it's in an uptrend and you were going to hold on and add on the dips, great. So, but from an intraday point of view, where things whip back and forth like that, it's no easy task, and it's always, it creates Is this the next whipsaw? What is it going to do? But when you get trending days, you got to take advantage of them. And you would think at new all-time highs, you'd be able to get a trending day. And no, it dipped, well, you saw what it did yesterday, whip up and down, whip and down. It was insanity. Like today, we'll see if this stabilizes on this support here, begins to hold. Well, we just say look to the left, begins to hold this area right here, and maybe it starts to move back up. But things don't move down like this. Not too often. They don't move down like this and then immediately go right back up again. Like yesterday, kind of the insanity when you have something like options expiration. And this is something I'm spending a decent amount of time in this new course, which I named initially candlesticks and then got into the intraday part of it. But look, so these are some of the things that you need to realize, not only as a swing trader, because everything is applicable to whatever time frame you're looking at, but when prices drop like they are now, which we refer to as like a climactic kind of a drop where things drop vertically into an area of support, you have to be nimble. Right? If you buy down here, there's going to be sellers if it goes back up again, because people are buying the dips after a move up and they hold it and then it collapses. It's going to be very different than the swing course. I mean, the foundational stuff is always the same, right? Support, resistance, trends. But there's many more examples of intraday trading. And what I'm doing the other courses where, okay, here's a slide and we build on that with the different concepts. So I've done the same with that, but I'm making a lot of short-term videos, meaning, what's happening in the moment. Here's an example. And so so for an example, like I made one, here's a 65-minute chart. Prices drop like we were just looking here. Here's a 5-minute chart. How do I trade that? How do I, what do you do with that? And so now we look at patterns and we look at trends and we look at rejections and we look at examples that, hey, do you want to trade this? Like Alex just said, he's putting on a starter position here on ES. I understand that. It's at support. I understand, his style, because the style is one in which it has to be traded that way, and that you're going to give it a lot of room. And you can give it a lot of room because you put on a small position. Now, sometimes they surprise you. They make meaningful moves. But without some kind of see this little shock bar right there? Or, some kind of, sideways movement combined with a shock bar, you don't get these kind of trending moves. So understanding the combination of sideways and shock bars and these little nuances or attributes to determining the likelihood of a more sustainable move versus, you better be nimble and quick. So those little things, are very helpful, as to determining what am I dealing with today? What's the personality of this particular price movement? Exactly. You took I was thinking of exactly that, Dan, but, it was like, what was that saying? So, all right, let's continue. Sometimes I can talk too much. So, correction bar. We'll see where today ends. If it's a topping tail. And so what if today is a topping tail? Is it a green topping tail? Is it a red topping tail? And now you got a bottoming tail versus a topping tail. They're in opposition of each other, and it's going sideways. Well, we call it, what's the weight of the evidence? Well, the major weight of the evidence is the trend is up in multiple time frames. However, it's short-term extended. So what am I going to think? I'm going to think it needs to consolidate a little more if it's going to go up, and we get past the options expirations. We'll see what damages are done or the lack thereof, and we go from there next week. So, the news, NVIDIA's putting 5 billion into Intel. Can you imagine that? Intel used to be the NVIDIA of the day. Now it's another company coming in because right, the 5 billion, they're going to help them make chips for computers, AI chips and all that. There's a lot of advertising lately. You've probably all seen AI computers. I think it's going to be something, but I think I'll wait another year or so before I even consider that. Yeah, TSM doesn't like that news. Well, that's competition, right? But anyway, so this is moving up. And what I'd look for today, possibly if this market's going to continue to propel itself higher, would be to look for the cues, as we always look at, no matter what it is. And you can see where that is. And it's kind of a little, I don't know, it looks like a bad tick. I'm not sure. But maybe on its way to 600, the next whole number. And so, we'll take a look at your option table. Thank you, Horace. Look at your option table and look at the open interest in it's probably going to be a high, the 600 calls expiring at the end of the week. And so that might be a target, like we look at SPX during each trading day to see what's the high volume calls, and they tend to have that as a magnet where they gravitate toward day to day. So you can do the same thing with the cues and see what the high volume strike is in the cues today when trading starts. So again, a correction bar. It's in an uptrend. It's gapping higher. Let's pull that down. So it's gapping up there. It's a sizable gap. So what do? Well, you move your line up. What was resistance becomes support. So if it pulls back into here, give or take, it should be buyers. All right. Other contracts. The Dow was all over. Look, it's getting rejected again. So, as we look around, it's like it's kind of more of the same. And more of the same, meaning, certain things going up and others trying to go up and not that coming down like that. But look at this. You got a market pushing up to new all-time highs, and breadth is at zero. You got to be picking the right thing. So, when somebody said in the social media, it's become a lot harder to earn big. Well, you might think, oh, what's going on? This is what's going on. If you're in the right thing on a particular day, like Oracle a week ago, where it trended that day, but it gapped up huge. So if you find a particular instrument on that particular day, but it's not like throwing darts where you can just, whatever, find whatever it is, and they're moving. So it is what it is. Nothing we can change. So and you see the Russell, look at this, visualize it on a closing basis. It's just been marking time going back and forth. It's in an uptrend, but it just grinds. It's a grinder. And so that's getting pushed back again this morning, but on support. We'll see if it holds here. And check this out. Right, look at these put call ratios. Right, poking down. I saw that last night. I was like, that's interesting. Right, it was up near the bands. It's like this market has like the cat of nine lives, where this was pushing up to an extreme. Maybe everything was going to participate. And this is probably options expiration too, but there was a surge in put buying yesterday. And what's it doing? It's gapping up. So, it's like you got to be careful, with call spreads and being short. This market will just take your head off. All right. Gold is down a little bit. Looks like maybe it's had a short-term top, but some buyers on the dip there. We'll see what it does. Crude oil just holding its own. Silver, on support, but a deep retracement. And you can see the weekly chart. And we got to see where it ends the day, whether it begins to hold here, whether it breaks the low or whatever it's going to do. Transports got a big rejection yesterday, but overall just going and running in place, a lot of going nowhere. So you just don't have everything moving together where it's, just load up on whatever it is. And when the time comes, I don't know if the time is going to come before there's some correction or everything eventually just comes together. But when the time comes where you perceive that things are moving in a fluid manner, that'll be time to load up a little and add. Okay. Let me look at spiders and SPX. Interest rates are up a little bit. And so this is that rejection yesterday. And now that they're moving up a bit, is it a good thing? I'm not sure. We're going to see how being low is good. I think coming back up a little bit, technically, it just makes total sense since it came down to this support. And so it's moving up. And it's, we've been talking about months, big trading range, little trading range. It's just at the bottom of the big trading range. So other than that, yield curve tightening or all of that stuff, recession, all this speculation, I think coming up a bit is a good thing. The 13-week also was a rejection yesterday. All heard the Fed news. No reason to get into it. All right, so spiders coming off the low, coming into the gap fill area. It's on here. This little support. It's in an uptrend. It's extended. My perception is it's going to chop around somewhere in here. Since the options expiration, it is short-term extended, which would lead me to believe the upside is limited, somewhat, right? Even with the correction bar. So where are we at? This could change by the open, just above that high. Remember yesterday, the numbers were bananas. Hey, they went in opposite directions. And of course, they were so far away, nothing ever got touched. It'd be interesting to see where they're at now. 64.40. Wow. 65.40. Okay. Almost 100 points. Under yesterday's low. Okay, and it's below 65.50. So, and it's up here. I think that should be a no-brainer today. If you want to go wide, you have to go wide to do that. But 66.75. Yeah, coming in a little bit. All right, so it's right here. The bottom side is further away. Market is in an uptrend. It's bullish. It's probably going to jiggle around. I tend to think the put strike is the better bet. All yours, Dan. I think for this week, I think options expiration 6,600. I think it's going to get pulled back toward that no matter which way it goes, and then next week we'll get a clearer insight as to what's going on. But you see how it was up above, it got dragged back down, went down. So I think it's going to get pulled back around that area. But we'll see how it shapes up today. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Still on my laptop here today. Hey, Greg, why don't you come over at lunchtime and fix my computer for me? I guess silence means no. All right, alarms
Somebody
here.
was coming over yesterday to help you.
No, tonight at 6.
Hmm.
I even doubled his offer yet to come yesterday and he couldn't do it. All right, here we go. Little marijuana stock we're in, up alarm. So believe it or not, we have a nice open game now because our cost basis is 79. So 3 pennies divided by 79 is pretty good. Hey, or Tavi, I think you might have been the one that asked this yesterday, or no, somebody in the green room asked me into the close. And I said, yeah. So I posted it already. I mean, 25 targets, it's aggressive, but I mean, there's a big void, so you really have no idea. But I just look at how far away that is, and yeah, I don't know. I'd say 21 would be a good first target, and then I just manage in between. Let the stock tell me how far it wants to go. Like, look at this lift. I know I'm changing subjects, but I gave this on this buy setup potent turn right here. And friggin', we sold some into that very next day strength. And then we had a break even stop that this stupid tail hit us. But look how much we left on the table. But I love the weekly, monthly. It was a great setup. Um, yeah, new alarm, I'm not real good with my alarms right now. Ew. So yeah, my Ava alarm actually did go off. PISX alarm, up alarm, so I just tightened stop. Zeta up alarm. I gave a change to that pre-market. Not sure if the room was open at the time. Let me give it to you. We have long calls that expire tomorrow, so let's just tighten the stop to today. I mean to break even. What to sell strength today? Oh, it's AMR. Now I had tighten stops yesterday just to protect gains. And look at this downside shakeout on AMR. Stopped us out at a gain. But look, my up alarm went off. This is how tight you want to manage. So this is all HCC. We're in from yesterday. It came from Roger. That must be an old alarm. All right, AMD I posted as a call spread. Look, this actually was up. Oh, let me go back to Intel. If you go look at Telegram, I had posted this as a put spread over what's today? Thursday over Tuesday's high, right before it exploded. And then like a minute after I posted it, I'm like, holy cow, what's going on right now? And then I saw the 5 billion thing, but I mentioned yesterday, last 2 days, on daily, weekly, monthly, we're stabilizing. So I had this as a directional watch also, but obviously not anymore. So I'm assuming AMD crashed on that news, and so that's a call spread for tomorrow if we get the premium. One of you said TSM. Not as bad, but 30-minute low. Call spread is still a bull rectangle. There's your flagpole. So even though it's gapping down to 257, that ain't that bad. That one could easily recover. See, that's in an uptrend. Compare. I mean, just look at the moving averages and the trend. This thing's in a downtrend and a declining 20. This one's substantially weaker. Yeah, Don, if you don't mind watching that for us, I'm not in it. I actually got out of mine at a small loss, but that's what happens to me with my tight stumps. Myrna posted as a put spread. little bottoming pattern. Don't like it directional, but if it can trade above all of this mess, then put spread for next week. KC was mentioned in the room yesterday, or maybe in the social media. So I am going to sell $15 puts. It's actually gapping down here. So I just said 5-minute high. We'll sell those puts because I said yesterday it needs a pullback. But look at the weekly monthly on this. That's beautiful alignment. So that looks great. BMNR up alarm went off. We're long this. We tried selling a put spread, but did not get filled. We're long diamonds in the ETF letter. Wow. Wow, my minder showed it up $3 earlier. So that sure is pulling in a lot. Deck, I just saw going by the ticker. Look at daily, weekly, monthly. Now, so this was a buy setup. Tuesday was a bottoming tail retest, broke out, got rejected, but the entry is now over the topping tail. Look at weekly, monthly. Are those in alignment? Yes or no? So even though Greg would ask me to mark this as a core, I'm not going to do it. Instead, I just think this has room to 140. So I'll just manage it. With a big target in mind, but that's beautiful alignment. And I just found them and going by the ticker. And just because I like looking at stocks, I pulled it up. And I had a pleasant surprise. All right. I think that's, oh, Paul is on my list. Alex and I have been watching this. I had 3 different orders out to sell puts on this yesterday. Didn't get filled on a single one because they're spreading. I was playing market maker. But I'm going to even consider, if it takes out yesterday's high, I might sell the 95s for October. They don't have any weeklies, so you got to go out a month. But, I like the turn daily, weekly. Looks like that's all my alarms. Earnings here. DRI. This fits in the category of a excessive gap. So I just watch it. Could be a 1 DTE put spread. It's actually turning right here. Let me get rid of Intel. I don't need this dog anymore. And one more T2. Alex mentioned yesterday. Particularly with the market coming in, that could be a 30-minute high. FDS has a big mess on a downtrend. Kerbal was down. Was down big, and I was going to have that as a 1 DTE put spread block, but now that it's recovering, I don't have any interest. Alpha Sierra, bullish gap, but now it's excessive. CSX, these aren't all earnings. Some I think were upgrades. CSX, and then it's pulling in RDN. That's a gap breakout. Bullish weekly, monthly, but look how far it is from the 50. I need a pullback. Well, FT, I don't care. I don't care as long as I get filled. Well, I take that back. I mean, I do care because you always want to trade liquid options. Because then if you want to get out, you're going to have the same problem. But particularly if you don't mind taking ownership, then I don't care. All right, so NUE, nothing to do here. RDN, we need to pull back. Bullish, remember this recent IPO? That's a nice igniting gap. Let me check the juice bar. We would have to go out. Well, there's gonna be nothing for tomorrow. 50. That doesn't make sense. No one. David's. Wow, the 43 puts for tomorrow are still 25 cents? Or maybe these aren't updating yet. That seems like a no friggin' brainer. I'm gonna do it. I'll tell you if I get filmed. He's not posting my order, so I have a feeling they're not open yet. I mean, with this gap, what do you think the odds of this turning around going to $43 is by tomorrow at 4 p.m.? But he's not updating me. So, all right, KC. Well, if it takes out 5-minute high, so I'll set an alarm 1670.
PLTR is taking out that resistance. And do it small because a big stop. Big stop.
I mean, no, I always screw this up. It's not burning. BMNR. Up alarm, so now we can do break even stop. I gotta do the math because we entered 2 half lots. But I don't feel like messing around with math right now. FTNT. Yeah, I like this 30-minute high. Let's just let it bobble around for a while. All right, this bullish. I'm not gonna get filled. HCC. This is our new long from yesterday. Looking good. The new up alarm 65. Let's move break even on that also. HCC. This is called the Roger Dodger setup. What about our our Catherine Zeta-Jones. Let's see, we got the 19 and a half calls. Yeah, but they finally opened the bullish things. So yeah, there's no way. And now 0 by 5 cents. Yeah, 19 and a half calls. Was $1.73, so we'll leave it break even. We have a small gain zone. QBT. Yeah, I was watching that yesterday as a directional. Yep, now it's too late for me. This AMD, I, I doubt we're gonna get filled, but this is what it was, 162. It's 16 cents, so there's no juice. Let's cancel that. Look at this little D Pro I found also. Daily, weekly, monthly, I like. I'm gonna set an alarm 5:35. Could be a good 30-minute high again. A D Pro Dragonfly, never heard of them. All right, spiders, cues, well, you gapped up and pulled in and reversing, so not bad. Well, not crazy though. Yeah, I got filled on my T-dot. I had a put spread. I put on a put spread yesterday and I had a bid out for a nickel, so I'm out of that now. I didn't hear a bell though. Hmm. Okay, looking at our opens.